This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for the Intentionality Gurus. Wow, I almost didn't get the name of the show out there. And we have Candace Pollock with us today. And we were just talking about how life really has played its part this week. And for any of you who are in Northeast Ohio, you're probably dealing with the ice and the snow and the very frigid temperatures. And with that, some of us have actually been locked in our houses for a couple of days. So I hope it really warms up tomorrow, Candace, because I need to get out of my house.
But yeah, I'm not sure it's going to go above freezing, but it will be getting warmer. And then I think I saw something around, it's supposed to go up to 40 or something, but it'll plummet again. So this is the cruelest part of the year, that just when you think it's safe to go out there.
Well, you know, this morning I did a podcast with somebody and she said, you know, I really hate to say this. She said, but I am in sunny, warm Florida.
Yeah, but they have a way of always bringing it up.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure how much they hate that.
But then I pointed out to her, but you have hurricanes. So I can deal with snow for a couple of days. Hurricanes, I don't think I could deal with. So, you know.
But I've always said that about Northeast Ohio, that we get snow and we don't even get as much as we used to. So that, you know, the mistake on the lake is just so out of date.
Yep.
And we don't have to worry about, you know, burning up, blowing away, washing away, getting eaten by cicadas and locusts and other things. And maybe there's some tornadoes, but that's on the other end of the lake. So
right, you got it. So, and we have plenty of water here because of the lake. So we can all take a shower and have a glass of water to drink. In the meantime, what are we going to talk about today, Candace?
Well, we've been on a theme about, you know, growing your zone in 2020, whether we're self-sabotaging, self-limiting, or we're growing into something we desire. And a lot of this is coming from the Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. He's written quite a few books, and this is a New York Times bestseller. There's a lot of things about it I like. And so we've talked about the zone of incompetence. Have you ever spent any time there?
You know what? A lot. And, you know, when we get further into this, I probably will have some good examples for you.
And then we have the zone of competence. So the zone of incompetence are things that you're not equipped to do. So that's, for me, public math and installing software. And zone of competence is things you can do, but others can do it just as well, if not better than you. And I have a few of those where most people can do it better than me. Zone of excellence, something you can do extremely well, but you know, have to be sure that you're just not in a comfortable rut. All right, like sitting on the couch when you get home and watching, you know, binge watching something. And then finally, your zone of genius. So when you hear the word genius, what occurs to you? Like, where does it show up in your body, and what occurs to you?
I mean, I'm all aglow. It's like, hey, look at me. I'm the star.
So have you had moments of genius, do you think? That you're willing to admit?
But you know, I don't allow myself to, which I think is interesting. And I thought about that this week, dealing with certain issues that I was having those moments, but it was like, I can't go there, because if I go there, it's almost like I'm going to sabotage myself.
Yeah, and that's actually the operative word. So that program that I've been mentioning that I'm going to be rolling out later this, I guess it's spring, maybe early summer, is going to be talking about those self-sabotaging things. So, and that's perfect. I mean, I feel the same way about the zone of genius. I'm, you know, it's, if the gods will strike me if I should have any pride that I might have some, not just competence, but some genius.
Right.
Who am I to be thinking that way? And I know I'm not alone. You're not alone. But if there was something that was your genius, something that you where time just kind of floats. You don't have a sense of pressure or time, and you're just in your zone. What do you think it might be?
Wow. I'm not sure right now.
Could be something that's not work related.
I don't feel much like a genius right now.
You cannot call your inner genius forth.
um, God, I don't know. I'm at a loss.
Yeah, so it's something that you might want to pay attention to. And what you pay attention to, remember the body compass we did
Right.
way back? So, the idea is to get centered in your body, and on some intuitive level, you will feel a difference in your body and ease. Sometimes it's after the fact you realize, oh my Lord, I spent 2 hours and I didn't even know 2 hours went by. And it might be something that you're totally engrossed in. Mine is discovering new ideas and, putting them together. And I'm not necessarily a deep person in that regard. I'm not what do you call it, an expert or a scholar. But I just love learning new concepts and then seeing how they apply, mostly for myself, but also, I'd like to share those with other people. So whether I feel comfortable putting a genius label on it, it's the thing that if I am truly paying attention to my heart and my gut, that's when I'm in my zone. And I think I'm moving in the direction of genius. So acutely when you're in your area of incompetence, your zone of incompetence.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. And do you know as crisply when you're in your zone of competence?
I think so. My zone of incompetence really, I think, is more of my insecurities than anything else. So it's not that I can't do something, but I'm judging myself against others. So therefore I feel incompetent. My zone of competence is my safe area. Okay. Where I'll repeat doing something the same way over and over again. Because I know I'm not going to make a mistake.
Got it. It's safe.
Yep.
And then any moments of excellence?
I think the moments of excellence is when I'm pushed to be somewhere, and that's what happened this week. I've been talking to 2 women who, in my mind, are brilliant in their fields of service, and they have many different areas of brilliance. It's not like just one area. And yet, when they have conversations with me, they both insist separately that I'm the smarter of us. I have more depth, and yet I'm sitting here going, no, that's not true. Because I'm thinking that they're smarter, that they have more depth. And so, but I almost have to agree with them because why do I have to agree with them? I agree with them because on one hand, I know what I'm talking about, but I also feel like I'm floundering because I think they are that much smarter.
So it's a two-edged sword that it's you might not feel comfortable in your own mind about yourself, but then when you compare it, it just kind of exacerbates it.
Yes, yes.
All right. And what do you notice about how do I want to phrase this? Maybe I won't do it this way. So what I heard you saying is that you are defining yourself, you have are describing your experience from your own perspective.
Right,
All right. And they've given you some input,
right.
and you may have put a little barrier up to that input, discounted it.
So I do that internally. I don't do it outwardly,
Mhm.
but internally, you know, when they're asking me for advice, which in theory, I see myself going to them for advice, but the tables have turned, and it just feels odd to me because I've really never been in a situation where somebody who I truly admire and I have assumed was better, smarter, everything else above me, now looks at me as being, you know, at least level with them or higher. And it's like, it's an uncomfortable feeling. But yet on the other hand is, you know, internally I'm going, haha, I made it. But I'm not sure I made it.
For now,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, you're only as good as your last movie, right? Isn't that one of the little tapes that goes on inside?
Yep, exactly. I mean, I shared this with my husband the other day. And the funny part is, and I'm sure a lot of couples out there will relate to this. My husband said, well, of course you're right. You're always right. I mean, you're the wife, right? And I looked at him and I said, oh, come on, it's really not like that in our marriage. And he goes, no, he said, but the reality of it is most of the time you are right. He said, because you're logical. And then I thought about that. And in our case, that's true. I use logic to get through things, whereas, you know, he's a dreamer. And so when we're talking about something or trying to make a decision on something, typically, you know, I turn out to be right. And he said, I think that's what you're carrying over into these business conversations. And it was like, never thought of it that way.
Yeah, so I'm glad you shared that because it really illustrates what I was getting to. So in the first instance, you were feeling things internally and they gave you a little bit of input. You didn't openly reject it, but you were discounting it pretty
Right,
seriously internally. And so you're still dealing with your own perspective.
right,
All right. And then your husband offers you some information. That's where you have the past experience where you can have the open exchange about
right,
it. And you're getting input from him. So it may alter your perception. Does that
right.
sound accurate?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. So from another author, Dan Sullivan, who wrote Your Unique Ability, there's an exercise. So Gay Hendricks in The Big Leap, the one that I started out with, has an exercise. It's similar, but and maybe he, you know, adapted it from Dan Sullivan. But Dan Sullivan's exercise is there's a particular question that you email out to people. And these are people that you may, up to 10 people that you may know just in various aspects of your life. And you ask for them to give you some feedback, and you don't guide them in any way except this little phrase you send out to this request. All right, and then you get the feedback, and then you distill it down looking for common denominators. And I have to say, it's really uncanny in terms of how others perceive our unique ability. All right, so
Okay.
I may have mentioned it before, but I had a friend who was in this coaching program I was in, and he had been a champion swimmer, state champion in Illinois. He went to West Point Academy in New York. He did his service, mandatory service after West Point. So he was in the Army for, I think, for 2 years was the commitment. Then he went to law school. He went, you know, West Point was college. He went to law school. So he had those colleagues. And then he worked in the legal field for a number of years. So when Matt sent out his unique ability request, you know, for feedback, he was able to get this feedback from these basic many arenas. All right, I didn't have as many arenas as he
Right.
had, but, nonetheless. And then because Matt and I were like buddy coaches together in this coaching program we were in, we compared notes. And it was uncanny how everybody, regardless of whether they knew him when he was in high school and a swim champ, or he was at West Point, or when he was doing his service, post West Point, and so on and so on, they all said the same darn thing.
Wow.
All right. So imagine what that experience would be like if you had that, somebody, let's say these women gave you feedback, and let's say you got that same feedback from all of these sources. What happens in your head?
I start to question myself why I didn't see it in myself.
You know why?
Why?
Because it comes to you so easily. It's like breathing. So it's not effort, it's not an effort for us.
Okay.
We just do it naturally, but it's not so for others. So where, I'm completely incompetent. I mean, I look at you in terms of the technology in particular, and you can handle all that stuff. You know how to do it. For me, it's not even Greek. Oh, and by the way, Matt was Greek. So, it was Greek to me because, yeah, it really is. But the point is, if you had that insight, what might change for you?
Well, a lot of things would change. I mean, I probably would not be who I am today. I mean, one little thing changes.
Well, we wouldn't want to lose you.
Yeah. But it's like a domino effect, that with that one little thing, if you knew about it, you'd be doing things differently. If you're doing things differently, then maybe their reactions would actually be different.
And what happens then?
Well, it's like going down the path that we've been talking about with the forks in the road. Things are going to change. And it's really up to each of us to be intentional what path we take and how far we go on it.
Yeah, and that's the exciting part to me, to see how far we can go, as long as it's the route we want.
Right.
So Gay Hendricks take on it is that to pay attention to what you love to do most, if you give yourself the opportunity to even pay attention to that, versus what you do just rotely, that you're without thinking. So this is without the angsty feeling, and it doesn't seem like work, and that you have a sense of abundance and satisfaction from that time spent, even if you have nothing to show for it. Sometimes reading, it's not necessarily a tangible thing, but I was working on this one reading list a year ago, and I did it in little chunks within a 5-hour period. And I'm telling you, I've never actually eaten Pop Rocks, but I understand the experience it's supposed to produce. And I felt like that's what was happening to my brain, because it was something I loved to do. I was just immersing myself in these ideas, and I could see the connections, and all of my little neurons were firing off. And, I was all by myself, but I was smiling. I was really happy. So to the outside world, I didn't have anything tangible to show for it. And then, so thinking about a typical day for you, if you were to identify your genius point, where do you think you have room for it in a typical day?
I think it's more in the morning, because in the morning, that's my inspiration time. It's where I sort of get excited, whether I'm looking at the calendar and saying, hey, this is what I have scheduled, or looking at the calendar and saying, what can I schedule? What is going to really get me going? I've been doing more. So I've been having more guests on my individual show. And in the beginning, when I was looking for guests, I was looking for a true match in this program that I use. And if it said that we matched under 60%, I wouldn't even contact the person. I didn't even read their bio. Okay. And because the way this program is set up, it's supposed to really, I mean, it's almost like a dating match thing. It's supposed to really tell you, these are the people that you should be talking to. And I did that for probably the first 3-4 months. But starting in January, I thought, I really have had some great people on, but am I missing out? And that's when it would match me up, I would definitely read about the person. And I was choosing people for the month, during the month of January, specifically if I saw there was a little discomfort for me in interviewing them. So one person in particular admits they come from a very religious background, and that's where their coaching comes from. And I thought, this will be interesting because I really don't like to talk religion and politics. Okay. But I invited them to come on. They did come on. They came on strong, but it was okay because I listened intently. I didn't speak in the same spiritual way that they were, but I could ask them really good, concrete questions. And we had a really good conversation. And so I pushed myself to keep doing that because talking to people who think just like me makes me boring. So it's been,
It is boring.
yeah. And I'm sure, maybe, if I actually go back and listen to a number of the podcasts like that, I might realize, hey, maybe that's why numbers weren't as high. We didn't get as many listeners. But it's given me a way to be able now to go back and say, hey, get out of that comfort zone. You've always pushed yourself to be in the comfort zone your whole life because you allowed people to tell you what they said you were good at. You convinced yourself that's what you were good at, and that's all you did. Now you can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, so it's a combination of how you feel, and in the unique ability exercise from Dan Sullivan, it is, getting feedback from others, but it's an open-ended question. So they aren't saying how they knew you, say, when you were a swim champ and those kinds of things. So I think it's well worth doing. The one downside I found to it, and this is possible, probably me, it wasn't targeted enough to know exactly how to apply it.
Okay.
It's assuming, he's coaching high income, net income entrepreneurs. So it's a very unique group of people and so on. But for the rank and file of us, it can be hard sometimes to say, okay, I have a little unicorn in me here, and how am I going to apply that? But, combined with Gay Hendricks, who wrote The Big Leap, the one I started out with, he's coming at it from a slightly different direction, same concept, same topics. And then again, that program that I'll be rolling out later, that's where we get into what are those underlying self-defeating, thought habits we have that hold us back. It's like, you can't get your ego too big there, thinking you have something unique about you.
Right. Well, and it's interesting that as we talk about this, twice a month. And then I do other podcasts, or I'm having conversations with other individuals, just, having an everyday, coffee clutch. I'm finding that um, I'm allowing myself to make mistakes, if that makes sense. Um, you know, even use the wrong term and let somebody correct me. Um, it's like I'm not necessarily doing it on purpose, but it's like, I want, like you said, I want to learn something. Okay. And this is my way of doing it. Um, and I'm not afraid for others to teach me along the way. Whereas in my past, um, I felt so insignificant, but I didn't want to admit it, that, I wouldn't have gone to you or somebody else and say, hey, do you think I'm doing this right? Or do you have any suggestions how I could do this differently? Because my pride would have just been in my way.
Yeah, and I share that. I mean, because in my family, if you made a mistake, there was teasing, and it was done gently, not meanly, but it was still teasing. And if you're a sensitive individual, like I was, you wanted to be safe from teasing.
Right.
So it's very constricting. And then it means you can't participate and play the entire keyboard on the piano, in terms of emotions and other things. And it's limiting in what we can enjoy of ourselves and actually share with others, because we're going to be more abundant and generous with those things generally.
Exactly.
And so on. All right. So going into the next week, this doesn't require a lot of heavy lifting.
Okay.
If you can just keep track of, catch yourself in the act of when you are engaged in some activity where you come out of it without a sense of real time that you've had to spend on it or have spent on it, and you have a sense of satisfaction and abundance around it. You know what that feels like in your body?
Yep.
Okay, so if you can notice, even if it's only a few seconds.
Okay.
All right, so the whole idea is to capture a little snapshot of that, and then look for the common denominators. What were you doing? What was it that was triggering these feelings and so on, all that hidden iceberg stuff. And then see if you can give that priority on your schedule to get more of it. So in the book, they talk about somebody having to do housework and didn't have time to do writing. And then she realized, well, she had that sense of abundance and satisfaction when she got into a little bit of writing, even 15 minutes. But she would always put it after the housework. All right. And his coaching was make it a first priority and do the housework after. And then, the rest is history. So can you do that?
Oh, absolutely.
Anybody listening, can they do that?
Yeah, I can do that. And I've been doing something very similar to that, which, my family sort of laughs about, because I have not been a good sleeper recently. And, I made the promise, that I would try to stay in bed as long as I can in the morning, just in case I can fall back asleep. But if I can't, then I have like 3 different things that I allow myself to indulge in if I decide I'm going to get out of bed. One, either I can binge watch something on Netflix, I can read, or I can sit down and write. And I'm finding that I would say 50% of the time I'm binge watching because there's nobody around to say anything to me, which I love. But the other 50% of the time, I am writing. I'm not reading as much, but I'm writing about the things that are important to me. And they're not even being shared. They're just, things that I'm basically journaling. And maybe someday my sons will find them and they'll say, oh, that's what she liked. But I think I've mentioned this before. there was a long time in my life that if somebody said to me, what's your favorite book? What's your favorite music? I would look at them sort of dumbfounded because I couldn't remember the name of the song, the name of the book, the name of the movie. And I would really act like I didn't have any favorites. But when I sit down and write, all of a sudden will just pop into my head, oh, I love this song. And I'll write about why I love the song, or that book really, excited me. And it's like, it just happens and it just feels good.
So it sounds like when you give yourself time to get centered in that way, it doesn't get screened out. These kinds of things don't get screened out. You're more of yourself in a sense.
Yep, exactly.
Cool. Well, let's find it and make more of it.
Okay, sounds
That'll be your
good.
genius.
So can you give us a little bit of hint about this program you want to roll out so our listeners can get a little more excited?
Well, so do you have like any internal things you say to yourself that stop you in your tracks?
Oh, I say a lot of things.
Right. So this program is all about identifying them, and there's a particular approach on neutralizing them and strengthening another part of our habits and thinking, so that we can overturn the disproportionate amount we spend with that getting beaten up by ourselves, and the spending time in a more beneficial mindset.
Sounds interesting.
It's a great program, and like all the programs I like to talk about, it's evidence-based, so it's grounded in good solid science, if I could pronounce it.
Sounds wonderful. I'm looking forward to it. And again, if our listeners have any questions, you can contact us at newclevelandradio@gmail.com. You can go to Candace's website, which is the intentionalitygurus.com, or our Facebook page, and learn more about what's going on and become part of the show. We
And
love
I
it.
put the links for the books I referenced today in the chat here. So I guess that'll go on the whatever.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very
All right.
much. We'll talk
Thank
to you soon. Stay warm.
You too.
Bye-bye.